Have you ever met someone and felt an instant connection? The conversation flows, the attraction is intense, the energy between you feels exciting, almost magnetic. You think to yourself, this feels different. And for a moment, it can feel like you found exactly what you've been looking for, what you've been longing for. But as time passes, something confusing starts to happen. Despite that powerful chemistry, the relationship begins to feel unstable. Communication becomes inconsistent. Emotional closeness feels unpredictable. And you start wondering why something that felt so strong in the beginning now feels so uncertain. This is where many people encounter one of the most misunderstood dynamics in relationships, the difference between emotional chemistry and emotional availability. Because the truth is, these two things are not the same. Emotional chemistry is about how intense the connection feels, the spark, the excitement, the feeling that you get around that person and feel like you just click. Chemistry often happens quickly. It can be driven by attraction, shared experiences, personality compatibility, or even familiarity with relationship dynamics you've experienced before. Sometimes chemistry feels powerful because the interaction activates something deep in your emotional system. It creates anticipation, curiosity, even a bit of unpredictability. But emotional availability is something very different. Emotional availability is about capacity. It's the ability to show up consistently in a relationship. It's the willingness to communicate openly, to be vulnerable, to support someone emotionally and allow them to support you in return. Emotional availability isn't about the intensity of connection. It's about the stability of the connection. And this is where people often become confused. Because you can have strong emotional chemistry with someone who is not emotionally available. In fact, sometimes the chemistry can feel even stronger precisely because the emotional availability is inconsistent. When someone gives you attention one moment and is distant the next, your mind naturally tries to solve the puzzle. You start analyzing their behavior. You replay conversations in your head. You look for clues that the connection you felt in the beginning is still there. And that uncertainty can actually intensify the emotional experience. But intensity doesn't always mean compatibility. Intensity doesn't always mean security. And intensity doesn't always mean the relationship has the foundation needed to grow into something healthy. Because healthy relationships don't rely solely on chemistry. They rely on consistency. When someone is emotionally available, you don't have to consistently wonder where you stand. Their communication doesn't disappear when things get difficult. They don't withdraw every time the relationship becomes more serious. They don't avoid emotional conversations or shut down when vulnerability is required. Instead, they remain present. They engage with the relationship instead of retreating from it. And while emotional availability may not always create the dramatic highs and lows that chemistry sometimes produces, it provides something far more important: emotional safety. Safety allows trust to develop. Safety allows vulnerability to grow. Safety allows two people to build something that lasts longer than the initial excitement of attraction. This doesn't mean chemistry isn't important. Chemistry plays a role in connection, attraction, and emotional bonding. But chemistry without emotional availability can lead to a relationship that feels exciting in moments and exhausting in the long run. Because one person ends up carrying the emotional weight of trying to maintain a connection while the other person isn't fully equipped to sustain. So if you find yourself drawn to relationships that feel intense but unstable, it might be helpful to pause and ask yourself a different question. Instead of asking, do we have chemistry? Try asking, are we both emotionally available to build something real? Because emotional availability shows up in patterns. It shows up in how someone communicates, how they handle conflict, how they respond when vulnerability enters a relationship. It shows up in their willingness to stay present when things become emotionally complex. And when you begin prioritizing emotional availability alongside chemistry, something shifts in the way you approach relationships. You start recognizing that connection isn't just about how someone makes you feel in the moment. It's about how consistently they show up over time. And when you choose relationships where both chemistry and emotional availability exists, you give yourself the opportunity to build something far more meaningful than just an exciting beginning. You create the possibility for a connection that is both passionate and stable. So here's something to reflect on this week. Pay attention to the difference between the people who create emotional excitement in your life and the people who create emotional stability. The healthiest relationships are often built when those two qualities exist together, not when one replaces the other. Because when someone is both emotionally engaging and emotionally available, the relationship doesn't just feel intense, it feels secure. And security is what allows love to deepen instead of constantly resetting. I'm Phoenix, and if this episode resonated with you, share it with others on social media who might need to hear it. Mind and Motive Podcast. Change the way you love. We'll see you next time.